latest episode of Top Shelf Live at Merrick Library. I am your host, librarian Carol Ann Tack, and this particular episode of Top Shelf at Merrick Library is the October Thrillfest, because it's kind of like my favorite month, right? So what happens this month? There's all kinds of horror and thriller content, and honestly, I couldn't think of a better way to launch this Thrillfest than with none other than Wanda Morris. She's going to be giving us a sneak peek, fingers crossed, of her brand new book that releases in October, and it is called Anywhere You Run. And if you notice, it says your past will find you. What I want to say is I interviewed Wanda Morris for her. I have lots of visual aids because I can. I have interviewed Wanda Morris for All Her Little Secrets, and that was her debut. And let me just tell you something about that book. There were some gasp out loud moments for me, and one of the things that happened when I was reading All Her Little Secrets was I was on the Long Island Railroad, and I am reading, and there was this crazy scene. So there I am on the railroad reading this scene. I gasped out loud. The entire rail car probably, turned around and couldn't believe that I was doing this. So I got up to tell everybody what I was reading, and I showed the book, and that's where we were. There you are, Wanda. That's awesome. You did it.
Okay, now here's the true test. Can you hear me?
Absolutely fine.
Yes.
Absolutely. How are you?
I got a new do.
I love it. You look amazing as usual. You are such a superstar. Can I just tell you, you know that you are such a superstar. I was telling everyone how when we were on my episode of the podcast, I told you there was that scene which you have to, right? That episode 73, there is a scene that took place. I'm on the Long Island Railroad. This thing happens. I let out a gasp. People turning around to look at me. And I remember everyone said, "People, are you okay?" And I stood up and I said, "I'm reading this book." And I held it up for everybody to see. And it was All Her Little Secrets. I'm hoping at some point that turns into sales for you.
Because I hope so too.
Oh my gosh. And here you are. I couldn't think of a better person to share the kickoff for October Thrillfest than with you. I mean, this book for this month, October 25th, get your pre-orders in right away, folks, if you're watching. It is a stunner. You write these thrillers. This is special particularly because it's historical fiction. Now, when I say historical fiction, to me, the 1960s doesn't necessarily seem like historical fiction.
Exactly. But here we are.
Here we are. If you would, give the viewers and everybody who's watching, give us a little peek about what Anywhere You Run is about.
Sure. First, thank you so much for having me. You are always such a honey bun. Thank you so very much. You're so supportive, and all the librarians out there, I love you guys to pieces. Thank you for all the support you've given All Her Little Secrets and Anywhere You Run. You guys have been so supportive of this book. So thank you, 1,000 thank yous. Trying to make sure I'm straight so that you can see the
You're perfect.
Behind me.
There it is.
Yeah. I tell you, William Morrow knocked it out the park with those.
Oh my gosh, those covers. I mean, they're beautiful.
Yeah, they are, and together they are just like a knockout. So Anywhere You Run is what I like to describe as a coming of age story of two sisters. In 1964, Jim Crow South, a coming of age story with a lot of dead bodies, but a coming of age story nonetheless. There are two sisters, Violet Richards and Marigold Richards. And actually, when you read the book, there's also a third sister who, no spoilers, is deceased, and her name is Rose Richards. But it's 1964, Jim Crow, Mississippi. 3 civil rights workers are brutally murdered for trying to help Black Mississippians get the right to vote. And against this backdrop, Violet Richards is also brutally attacked, but she kills her attacker. She knows that as a Black woman in the Jim Crow South, she won't get justice, so she takes off running. And through a series of twists and turns, she winds up in a small town in rural Georgia. And her sister back home, Marigold, is also in a bit of trouble too, a little different though, because she's pregnant and unmarried in the 1960s, which is right. A big no-no for good girls. And when the police show up at Marigold's door looking for Violet, she figures she could get kind of hemmed up in this. And she decides to take off running too, because it could also help her solve her problem of this this unplanned pregnancy. And so she heads to a different part of the country. She heads to the north. But what the 2 sisters don't realize is that that's just the beginning of their problems, because there is someone from back home in Jackson who knows what happened, knows that Violet has murdered someone, and he is hot on their trail. He has some dark secrets of his own and a really unique motive for finding the women.
Just hearing you say that, I am getting the chills, because I remember when I was reading this, I knew I was reading a Wanda Morris book. I thought, how we're going to go right down this path. You bring us along with the sisters, the relationship of the sisters. I'm going to get chills throughout this entire interview, I can tell already. But the way you write the sisters and their relationships and all of the other characters around them, both of your books, and I've got both pictures right here. We were able to reverse the images. How cool is that?
That is cool.
All of the women that you portray, that you write, they are strong, they are smart, they are vulnerable, they face immense challenges and microaggressions, discrimination, all of these things that you put in this book, both of them. And this book particularly, Anywhere You Want Run, the reviews that are already out right now, they are mind-blowing. I'm just going to read what Lou Burney says. He says that this book hooked me from the first page. It's a novel both tender and ferocious. It's an absolute stunner.
He is such a honey. Oh my gosh, he is such a wonderful writer. So to hear him say that, and I got the opportunity to meet him in person last month, and he is as gracious as you ever want to meet in a person. I mean, he is just so wonderful, and he's just a stellar writer. So I consider that very high praise.
It is, and I was like, yes, exactly. I mean, I would have put that on a t-shirt if I could have, along with the photo of the book. It's received starred reviews from PW. Librarians across the country, as you know, you've already said it, we love you. We love your books. You've appeared twice on the Library Reads Top 10 list. One librarian in particular, this way. One librarian in particular gave it a fantastic review. I don't know who that girl is, but
I know who that girl is, and she is something special. So let me tell you.
And then for your debut, I appreciate that. And then for your debut, you became a Library Journal cover person. I mean, I'm sorry, Vogue. We've got a Library Journal cover person right here. Look at you in that picture. I let out a scream when that hit my desk. And I remember telling you that on the podcast. I'm like, what is that?
Let me tell you something about that picture though, Kara. Hold that picture back up. So I am sitting on my living room sofa, okay? And so when, I showed the picture to my family, my husband and myself were like, is that our sofa? You can't see all the stains.
We all have a story like that, right?
Right. So that photographer is Michael Schwartz, and he is obviously phenomenal that he could hide my son's marker drawings on the sofa from when he was 4 years old. Yeah, we just flipped the seats over, but we flipped them so many times. So yeah, I think I must be sitting strategic, you know.
It's all in the product placement, so to speak.
Yeah, right.
It's all in the placement.
But
It's a great picture. There you are, cover person.
that was just crazy. I'm telling you, I big shout out to Lisa Holstein, because
yes.
it was just, oh my gosh, she's another one of my favorites. And I got the call. Yeah, when I got the call to do that, I was like, oh my gosh. So to Lisa, you know, whatever she needs, all she has to do is call. Yeah.
Oh, she will love hearing that, I'm sure. Hello, Lisa, if you're out there.
Hey, Lisa.
The accolades, the acclaim, the awards, everything that you do, there are pages and pages and pages of things that you have accomplished, the things that you've done, and you're a mom, and you're a wife. I don't know how you find the time to do all of that, but I do remember when we were on the podcast, you talked about taking your lunch break when you were writing all her little secrets. Mm-hmm. And you talked about the Vining Branch Library. Mm-hmm. And talk about that a little bit, because I don't know if everybody knows that story.
So another huge shout out to the Vinings Library, which is part of the Cobb County Library System. So thank you, Vinings and Cobb County Library System. So I was working as, you know, in corporate law. And, you know, I had to find time to write because, you know, at the time I still had, you know, 3 kids at home, and, you know, I've got this job and all this other stuff. And so the evenings were kind of full. I would still write a little bit in the evenings, but I would take my lunch break. And I knew I couldn't stay in the office because people are always kind of, you know, coming in and out of your office. And so I would just go around the corner. My office was right around the corner from the Vinings Library. And I would go over there every day and sit for an hour, hour and a half, and just write. And it was real convenient because, like, I write all my first drafts in longhand. And so I would just go over there with my pad and pen and just write for an hour and a half. And that's how I got a majority of the book done. Like I said, I try and write a little bit in the evenings, but then I was kind of tired.
Of course. Yeah.
I often wrote in airports if I was traveling on business. I wrote while I was sitting and waiting on my kid to get out of track practice or piano lesson, wherever I could find little, you know, snatches of time, I did. But yeah, the bulk of the day, you know, that hour and a half was my solid writing time every day. Yeah.
And I remember I asked you, once the book was published, did they put a little plaque on the corral you were sitting in, right? And say, this is the one.
I don't think so, but I'll tell you, I became pretty darn attached to this one particular Carol because it was in the back and it was right beside a window, and the window overlooked, you know, these beautiful trees in this, you know, kind of lush area. And every day I would go there and I would sit there and I could really kind of immerse myself into, you know, the project. But one day I went into the library and, you know, I kind of waved to the librarians at the front desk and I went marching back to my Carol. And there was this guy who had the audacity to be sitting at my Carol. I kind of like, you know, it's like that cartoon character that goes, ah! And I kind of stopped and I was like, oh my gosh. And I couldn't ask him, like, sir, could you please get up because I write here every day. So, you know, I went down a few, chairs down from him, and I tried to write, but I couldn't concentrate because I read a little bit, then I looked to see if he was packing up. Every time I heard him move, I was like, maybe he's getting ready to leave. So that wasn't my most productive day, but I realized then, I was like, oh my gosh, this has become my writing space.
And I'm just thrilled that you were in a library at the time, that you had the opportunity to take advantage of a lovely space in the local library and write this fantastic, all her little secrets, just fantastic. Every time I do this, I get it right in rehearsal. I don't get it right when I'm on the show. One of the things I mentioned at the top is that you have this gift for immersing readers in the story. Mm-hmm. There are things that you did, the historical fiction research that you did for anywhere you, oh my gosh, anywhere you, I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm so excited to see you. I can't even, there's all the hearts blowing up. The historical fiction research you did for this book, I can't even imagine the rabbit holes that you went down. I will point people to your Instagram page because it is a phenomenal treasure trove of things that you found, that you shared about your research, magazine photographs, the Spotify playlist, which is terrific. I love having that as a companion piece. So what I will do is every time someone checks it out, I'm going to say, go to Spotify and listen to the playlist while you're reading, because it's wonderful that you did that. You've got all of this in this book. Mm-hmm. And you really plumb the depths of very, very sad things, very uncomfortable things. One of the things about voting rights that comes up is the jelly beans in the jar, which 1964 is not that far away, and we're still having this conversation.
Exactly. It's not that far away. But before I get into that, let me just give another shout out to library. See, I tell you, you guys are like all intimately tied into my books. Huge shout out to the Auburn Avenue Library, right. Research Library on African American culture and history. They just have, like you say, a treasure trove of information. And when I finally decided on this particular idea to write, I went into the library and told the librarian, like, here's what I want to write about. Here's what I'm trying to do. And he was like, I got you. And he just opened up books and papers that the library had access to, and pointed me in all sorts of directions that, led me to have a really fulsome, breadth of information and knowledge about this particular period, because I had originally thought about starting the book in 1965, mm-hmm. which was the year that the Voting Rights Act was passed. But as I got into all this research that I had been given access to, I realized that voting rights really kind of started before that. And with all the work that Medgar Evers had mm-hmm. done, right. and the passage of the Civil Rights Act, which was passed in 1964, which really kind of led into the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So huge shout out to the librarians there. But yeah, it was, some of the research was really hard. It was hard to look at some of the pictures and read some of the firsthand accounts of people who had actually, Black and white, who had jumped into the fray of the civil rights movement. Those were the real patriots, mm-hmm. if you will. Mm-hmm. Those were the people who put their lives on the line for something so important. Mm-hmm. But then there was also the fun stuff, like you said, delving into the music. And I read a ton of old magazines like Life and Jet and Ebony and Tan and all these magazines, because I was really trying to create an ear for how people were talking in 1964, and what kinds of music were they listening to, and what were they wearing, and And I kind of love clothes and fashion, so that was kind of fun to delve into. And then yeah, I posted on Instagram some of the ads. Oh my gosh, some of the ads were just crazy.
Crazy.
Crazy. And so I posted one. There was another one that was really, really bizarre, and I thought people will think that I've gone mad if I
No.
post this one. So
Oh.
you know, the one that I did post was kind of bizarre. So yeah, go to my Instagram account, Wanda Morris, and take a look, because it was just a really, really crazy time for women. And the book explores some of that, you know, the lack of financial independence for women, and you know, having to be, you know, second class citizen, you know, behind men during the time. One of the songs on the playlist is James Brown's "It's a Man's World,"
Oh,
and
yeah.
it almost needs like a in the song. But yeah, so it was a lot of research, but you know, good and bad, because I really did want to make sure that the story was first and foremost authentic and accurate, but also that, you know, when you came from the book, you thought about what your place would be in history, because a lot of the issues that I cover in the book have unfortunately a strange parallel to issues that are going on currently today. And you know, if you read the book and you go, oh, I wonder how I would have reacted to something like that back in 1964. Well, how would you react today? Because a lot of it is going on currently.
Yeah, especially the piece of the jelly bean part with the voting was so abhorrent and shocking, and I know it shouldn't have been, but I really couldn't believe it, and it's disheartening and upsetting.
Yeah, that came from a firsthand account that I read of a man who, there was a documentarian who recorded stories of people and what happened when they tried to register to vote. And a lot of times what the lawyers that worked for the Mississippi Summer Project, which was an initiative to help Black Mississippians get the right to vote, they would document the stories. They would, you know, send testers out to see if they could, you know, register to vote, or actual, you know, citizens from the community, and tell them, you know, tell us everything that they said to you and everything that happened when, you know, you tried to register to vote, and why they sent you away. And that was a firsthand account.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. The pictures on Instagram, I'm urging people to go there because these magazine ads are incredible. The dresses that the women are wearing. There's a couple of other things that I will not say on Instagram. You will have to find them for yourself. Wanda knows exactly which one I'm talking about in particular because I commented and I was like, what is that? It was just, whoa. You never cease to amaze me. You never cease to amaze me with the things that you do. You have Irma Thomas songs on the playlist, and there's so many beautiful things. Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, the Oscar Peterson trio. You know, it's so funny. When I was listening to that, I was remembering certain things that my parents would play, and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, let me go back and try to find the things that I listened to, and it just makes it creates a scenario around the book. So when I went back to reread certain scenes when I wasn't reading, I had the playlist going on in my car or in my earbuds or whatever, however I was listening to it. And it just really gives it such a zhuzh, as the kids say. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but you know what I
You
mean.
are.
I'm too old and square to probably even use that word, but I'm going to say it anyway.
You're fine. Yeah, both my parents were very big into music. And so it was easy enough for me to kind of dabble into the music that they listened to around that time period. Nina Simone and Thelonious Monk and Etta James,
Right.
My Funny Valentine. And and Jackie Wilson, Baby Workout. That number kind of reminds me of the whole book, because even though the book deals with some really tough issues, I hope people will see that there is this offering of hope at the end of the book, and what happens to the two sisters that, says, oh, okay, so maybe they're gonna be okay, maybe not, but you still walk away with some sense of hope for these women.
I love the sisters. I love them. I love them separate, and then I love them together. I love that you put, each of them has their own story, the way that gets blended at some point in the book. No spoilers, because this is a peek, so I don't want to say too much more than that, although I probably blab too much as it is. When you're finished writing All Her Little Secrets, when you finish your debut,
there you go again with that paper.
when you finish All Her Little Secrets, at what point do you start writing Anywhere You Run? Because there's kind of a meshing going on there. There's a little bit of something that's happening there. When does Anywhere You Run come in? How soon after?
You mean like when I physically started writing?
Yeah, like you sort of said, gee, this is what I want to work on next, and how did that come?
So, here's what happened. I had just finished All Her Little Secrets and had turned it in to my editor, and while I was waiting on notes, I said, okay, I need to get started on the second project. And we had just gone through the 2020 election. Oh. And there was all this talk about election fraud and the big lie. And I thought, oh, it would be really cool to write about that, because the impact on the country was so polarizing.
Right.
But I couldn't really figure out a contemporary angle for doing it. And so I had this character roaming around in my head now for years. And I thought, oh, it might be cool to take a look backwards to look forward. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, yeah, maybe and there's a little Easter egg that Carol and I are dancing around here. But I thought, yeah, it might be cool to kind of explore it from this angle. Like, how did we get here in the first place? And so I went back and that's when I started the research. And now I'm a lawyer, and the type of law that I practice is primarily employment discrimination and civil rights. And so I've always known about these particular laws, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which made it illegal to discriminate against people based on, race, gender, etc. And so a large part of my legal practice comes out of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so to me, it's been kind of like a full circle of my careers, that I could tie them both back together with this book. So it's been kind of cool.
It's very cool. And your writing space, has that changed since the books have come out? Are you writing still in the library? Are you writing somewhere else? Do you have an office?
Interestingly enough, right here, this is a room right off of our family room. And interestingly enough, some days I still go over to the Vinings Library. The Vinings Library was right around the corner from my job, but also right around the corner from my son's school. Oh. And so if I have like a meeting over there at his school and I'm like, oh, I got a couple extra hours and I'd have to be back over here anyway to pick him up. So I'll just go over to the library and pop in. And it's so funny now because, when I first started going in there to write my book, I would just kind of wave or nod, and the librarians would wave or nod, and, they were busy. They were like, whatever, she comes in here. Okay,
all the time.
So what?
She's a regular.
So now it's all like, hey, how are you?
If you ever walked into Merrick Library, I would not, you would hear me shrieking down by the ocean. You'd hear me shrieking. Oh my gosh, that's great. I'm glad that at least you get to go back and sort of rekindle that flow, that feeling. It must be kind of nice to be able to do that. So you are about to head out on this epic book tour. Where can viewers find you to follow along with your upcoming events?
I think the easiest way is to go to my website, wandamorriswrites.com. And if you go to events, all my events are listed there for the launch, particularly the launch week. And then there are a few events in November that are there. And you'll also find the playlist on the website as well. But I always encourage people, reach out to me, send me a note through the website. If you like the book, let me know. If you didn't, keep it to yourself. Just kidding.
Right, keep it to yourself. That's right. That's right, exactly. Although that's impossible. Impossible. I'm telling you, I didn't even mention, oh, I'm not even going to mention, there are good guys and bad guys. That's all I'm going to say. Just like in All Her Little Secrets, there are good guys and bad guys. And how you do that?
But that's the thing about it. I think that, people are not all good and people are not all bad, and there are these shades. And so this book is not just about, all blacks being good and all whites being bad. Because it wasn't that way. And if you read the book, you'll see that, this cast of characters are all kind of caught up under this large umbrella of racism, and it impacts us all, black and white. Yeah.
You write suspense, thrillers. I know we have to go, but I gotta ask, is that something you set out to do, to write suspense thrillers? Or did the story, like when you started doing All Her Little Secrets, was that a runaway train for you? Like did it start out that way? Did you know you were going to be in this genre? We're all happy for it. This is not a complaint.
No, I've always loved the genre. I like a book that grabs you from the throat and drags you, right through breathlessly. And I thought, wow, when I read books like that, I was like, oh my gosh, to be able to write something like this that engages a reader and holds them, because, that's a big ask for somebody to pay $20 for a book and then spend 8 or 10 hours reading it. So, giving people what they want.
Yeah. And you give them now a fully immersive experience with the playlist and the photographs that you share on Instagram. Before I let you go, is there anything you can share about what you're reading or have read that you would like to recommend or share with viewers?
Oh, yeah. I've read a really cool book. Hang on. Just recently, called Jackal. Oh. This book is like crazy good. Crazy good. It's by Aaron Adams and it's called Jackal. And it is suspense thriller that spins a little into horror, about Black girls who go missing over several decades, and what happens when a young woman returns home and gets caught up in trying to find out what happened. Is such a good book.
Wow. Page turner, riveting.
Riveting. It's Jackal.
And there must be something about these red covers, because, all these red covers are surefire hits. I'm just going to say that, because that's what they are. And then once you read all the red colors, you can read the blue covers.
There you go.
October 25th. You have time before this one comes out to read All Her Little Secrets. So we have shelves they're in the library here and at your local independent bookstore. So please pick your copy up. Wanda Morris, thank you for all of your support for libraries across the country. We are thrilled that you are so supportive. I can't thank you enough for all that you do for libraries. I'm so grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I should be saying that to you guys. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you so much.
It takes a team. We're together in this. Viewers, everybody out there, thank you for your patience at the very top. And we had some technical issues, but we resolved those. How many people does it take to resolve technical issues? Two. Well, you're looking at them. It's always a pleasure to bring authors to you via Instagram or through the Merrick Library podcast, Top Shelf, that I am grateful to host. We will see you next week when Top Shelf Live Thrillfest edition continues as I host author James Wade for his brand new book, Beasts of the Earth. Same bat time, same bat channel. This guy may show up here as well. And I'm just letting you know one more time, October 25th, the fantastic book, Anywhere You Run, by our incredible guest tonight, Wanda Morris. Thank you so much for joining. I am just thrilled that you were here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carol Ann. Love you to death.
Mwah.